After Lu Sheng and his family finished their eventful meal, they went to the front counter to settle the bill. As Lu Sheng approached, the cashier informed him that a Master Bing Long had already taken care of the payment for their party. The news caught Lu Sheng by surprise. He stood for a moment, thoughtfully processing this unexpected gesture. He wondered if this was Bing Long's way of apologizing for her earlier behavior. After considering her lonely past and this act of goodwill, his resolve softened. He decided that since she had made this effort, he would go a little easier on her when they next met. The story then jumps forward several days. The preliminary rounds of the Interstellar Tournament had been raging for 8 cosmic days. After numerous intense screening rounds, the massive pool of contestants had been whittled down, but there were still over 40,000 talented warriors remaining. From this massive group, only 16 would ultimately emerge to compete in the grand finals. As Lu Sheng prepared for his next match, his sister Qingyi cheered for him with excitement, pumping her fists and shouting for her big brother to do his best. She proudly presented him with a floating, high-tech camera orb, explaining she had bought the best model to guarantee it would capture every moment of his fight. She added that the feed would be broadcast live back to their home planet, the Azure Star, and urged him to win first place for everyone back home. Her enthusiastic support was almost overwhelming, illustrated by a comedic scene where multiple versions of her cheered him on from all sides, chanting slogans like, "Azure Star is with you." Lu Sheng could only look on with a bead of sweat, speechless. Finally, with a fond, weary smile, he patted his sister's head, telling her he understood, even if she talked a bit too much. Qingyi beamed with happiness at her brother's touch. As the moment for his departure for the next round arrived, Lu Sheng received some final words from his parents. His father, brimming with confidence, told his son that he believed in him and encouraged him to go for first place. His mother, however, was more focused on his well-being, urging him to be careful and not push himself too hard if the fight grew difficult. His father then grew nostalgic, recalling the simple days of driving his son to his high school exams. He marveled at how, in the blink of an eye, his son had journeyed to the stars, expressing immense pride in how far the Lu family name had come. Standing beside him, Snowy's expression was filled with concern. She gently took his hand, her blush deepening. Unable to hold back her emotions, she pulled him into a tight hug, her one request being that he must come back safely. Lu Sheng held her close, stroking her head reassuringly. He promised her not to worry, assuring her he would be fine. Their friends and the other martial saints from the Azure Star watched the moment from a respectful distance. One of the saints, a man with white hair, looked on with anticipation, declaring this was the moment Master Lu would finally shine his brilliant light across the starry sky. Just then, a holographic projection of President Sebastian appeared before Lu Sheng, asking if he was ready. With a confident smirk, Lu Sheng looked at the projection and told the president not to worry. He declared that this would be exactly what Sebastian wished for, a battle to showcase his power. Pleased by his confidence, Sebastian added one last detail, informing Lu Sheng that he had arranged for an old acquaintance to act as his assistant. The news left Lu Sheng curious, wondering who this acquaintance could be. As Lu Sheng was wondering who Sebastian had sent, a voice called his name. Lu Sheng turned, and materializing before him in a flash of blue light was Lan, the enforcer he had met long ago. It had been half a year since they last saw each other. As the man who had guided him into the starry sky, Lu Sheng felt gratitude towards Lan. He greeted him with a small smile, acknowledging it had been a long time. However, Lan's gratitude towards Lu Sheng was greater. He happily informed Lu Sheng that, thanks to his connection with him, he had been placed on the list of candidates for the next Star Sector Enforcer. Beaming with pride, Lan continued, explaining that he was now undergoing a level 12 training program and his official rank had been raised by 1 level, all thanks to Lu Sheng. Seeing how successful and pleased Lan was, Lu Sheng was reminded of his first guide back on the Azure Star, Lan Cheng. Lost in thought, Lu Sheng reflected that Lan Cheng was his true first guide into the wider world. He remembered how Lan Cheng had disappeared without a trace, and found himself wondering what had become of him and how he was doing now. Meanwhile, on one of the spectator planets orbiting the tournament arena, a lone hooded figure sat in a dark, messy room, watching the competition on a large screen. The floor was littered with empty cans. The figure was Lan Cheng, Lu Sheng's first guide. He stared silently at the screen, his expression somber. Another hooded figure, his face obscured by a gas mask, approached him. It was Zhao Lin, who tried to console his friend. He told Lan Cheng to look on the bright side, reminding him that he had gotten a new model flying device, delivered by Lan himself, a gift many others would envy. But these words offered no comfort. In a sudden burst of rage, Lan Cheng's hand clenched. crushing the cup he was holding. His face twisted in a furious expression as he yelled that he could have had so much more, 100 million times more, and that he didn't need any handouts from Lan. He was convinced Lan's gesture was not a gift, but a deliberate humiliation, and he cursed him for it. Overwhelmed by his failure, Lan Cheng broke down, burying his face in his hands. He sobbed, lamenting that he had been just one step away from achieving true success. Zhao, however, mocked his friend's misery, patting his back and sarcastically telling him not to cry. This only enraged Lan Cheng further, and he screamed at Zhao to get lost. As Lu Sheng and Lan arrived at the massive tournament arena, Lan began to explain the rules for the upcoming semi-final round. He detailed that the semi-finals would be broken into 5 rounds. The first 3 would be 10-person elimination battles, essentially free-for-alls, while the last 2 rounds would return to the traditional one-on-one duel format. Lu Sheng found this illogical. He questioned Lan, pointing out that both the preliminary and quarter-final rounds had been one-on-one duels. It made little sense to switch to a 10-person battle royale at this stage. With an amused smile, Lan explained the reason. Apparently, the one-on-one format was taking too long, and the organizers received a flood of complaints. As a result, they made a last-minute decision to change the rules to speed things up. He added that since this was the first time such a massive tournament had been held, it was understandable there would be some organizational hiccups. Internally, Lu Sheng had a brief, smug thought, musing that even variety shows on his home planet wouldn't have made such a mistake. Outwardly, he simply told Lan to continue. Lan went on to explain the bracketing. He assured Lu Sheng that while matchups were a random draw, the seeded players from each star sector were protected. To maintain excitement, the top contenders were almost guaranteed not to face each other in the initial Battle Royale rounds. With confidence, Lu Sheng replied that it didn't matter to him who his opponents were. Lan then gave him a picture of the remaining competition. He revealed that at this stage, over 20% of the fighters were powerful level 11 martial artists. The number of such strong opponents left Lu Sheng surprised. Still processing the high number of powerful opponents, Lu Sheng found it hard to believe there could be nearly 10,000 level 11 martial artists under the age of 1,000, even across 12 star sectors. This prompted him to ask Lan the question, were there any level 12 fighters among them? Lan became thoughtful, admitting that while there were suspected cases, he couldn't confirm anything for certain. He then detailed the 2 most likely candidates. The first was the top-seeded player from the Hill Star sector, the Ice Demon Monroe. He possessed a Sunstar-grade physique and had reached the peak of level 11 300 years ago. After that, Monroe went into a long seclusion to attempt his breakthrough, and now, with his return, many rumored he had successfully reached level 12. Lan then introduced the second figure, a man from the Xylan Star sector named Qian Yushu, who was just over 300 years old. Lu Sheng had heard of Monroe, but Qian Yushu's name felt unfamiliar. Lan noticed his reaction and asked if he also sensed something peculiar. With a serious expression, Lan revealed the rumors surrounding Qian Yushu. It was said that he was not from their world, but the reincarnation of a powerful expert from another civilization, another star region, or perhaps another universe. The mention of another universe sent a jolt of shock through Lu Sheng. Lan continued to explain the man's unbelievable history. Until age 50, Qian Yushu was an ordinary person, with a martial arts level barely at level 3. Then, in less than 200 years, he experienced an explosive growth in power, soaring all the way to level 11. Lan concluded that, given this progression, it was highly possible Qian Yushu had already reached level 12. The revelation stunned both of them. Internally, Lu Sheng was in disbelief. This story was just like the reincarnation stories from his past life. He couldn't believe he was about to face a real-life reincarnated expert. The initial shock, however, quickly faded and was replaced by a sense of anticipation. The thought of encountering such a unique and powerful opponent made the competition suddenly seem far more interesting. A confident smirk spread across his face, his eyes glowing with the excitement of the challenge to come. Still processing the stories about his rivals, Lu Sheng stood in the vast arena with his arms crossed, thinking to himself that the starry sky was so large it truly contained all sorts of strange and powerful people. He then reflected that he was also technically a transmigrator who had been reborn. However, he felt his own situation was vastly different from the rumored Qian Yushu, who seemed to have come with his own powerful cultivation system built in. Turning to Lan, Lu Sheng asked him to keep a close eye on this mysterious individual. Lan, looking at his holographic tablet, replied that he would have done so anyway. He explained he was also interested in the man, as his mysterious nature had already attracted the attention of higher-ups in the star system. If Qian Yushu hadn't decided to participate in the tournament, they would have had no information on him at all. Lu Sheng considered this and concluded that if Qian Yushu was competing, it was likely because he needed the resource rewards, meaning he probably wasn't as wealthy in resources as Lu Sheng himself. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light erupted from Lu Sheng's chest, materializing into a glowing card that floated before him. Lan explained that Lu Sheng's identity card had just been generated, meaning the draw for the semi-final matches had officially begun. A cage of golden light then formed around Lu Sheng. Looking around, Lu Sheng saw countless similar pillars of light shooting up all over the arena, and realized each one must be a contestant being assigned to their match. He reached out and took his card, which instructed contestant Lu Sheng to proceed to Arena W4985. Just then, Lan looked at his holographic screen with a shocked expression, exclaiming that the list of contestants assigned to Lu Sheng's arena had just been released. Lan's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at his screen. He quickly told Lu Sheng he had been placed in a group with 3 level 11 warriors, calling it a troublesome situation. He asked if Lu Sheng wanted to see their profiles. However, Lu Sheng remained calm and simply replied that it wasn't necessary. Still concerned, Lan offered Lu Sheng a pair of holographic combat glasses, insisting he should wear them as they would surely be helpful. Lu Sheng just stared at the glasses, silent and unimpressed. Before Lan could insist further, Lu Sheng was enveloped in a pillar of light and teleported into the arena, leaving a stunned Lan calling out his name. Left alone, Lan looked on worriedly. He couldn't understand the grouping, thinking that with 3 level 11 fighters, it seemed as if Lu Sheng was being deliberately targeted. A moment later, inside the vast coliseum, 10 pillars of fire erupted from the ground, signifying the arrival of the 10 contestants. Lu Sheng stood calmly amidst the other warriors, his hands in his pockets, looking composed. From a floating platform, a flamboyant announcer with blonde hair excitedly addressed the massive crowd. He declared the first round of the semi-finals had begun and that all seeded contestants from the 12-star sectors were now in the arena, whipping the audience into a frenzy. The crowd, filled with various alien species, roared with excitement. The announcer then pointed dramatically towards the arena, singling out one fighter. He shouted that this was the most talked-about contestant, the first super genius with an immortal-grade transcendent physique to appear in the 12-star sectors in a million years. After a dramatic pause, he boomed the name for all to hear, Lu Sheng from the sub-Jupiter sector. All eyes turned to Lu Sheng, who stood calmly in the center of the arena as everyone's expectations fell upon him. As Lu Sheng was announced, his family and friends erupted in cheers. His sister, Qinghe, jumped up and down with a fan, excitedly shouting for her big brother. Snowy and their father looked on proudly. Elsewhere, in a dark, messy room, Lan Cheng and Zhao watched the same broadcast. Lan Cheng shot up from the couch, fists clenched in rage as he recognized Lu Sheng on the screen. In a much more luxurious setting, President Sebastian stroked his beard while Ecclesia stood silently beside him, both watching the events on a large screen. In another location, a mysterious shadowy figure watched the broadcast alone, a cigarette dangling from their lips. Back in the arena, Lu Sheng was the center of attention. The other 9 contestants couldn't help but stare and whisper amongst themselves. One large, horned warrior and a purple-haired elf stood together, surprised. The elf mentioned that when he first saw the group list, he thought it was just someone with the same name. The horned warrior agreed, admitting he was startled. A confident, green-haired female elf looked over at Lu Sheng with a smirk, thinking she had run into the immortal right from the start. The rest of the warriors also fixed their gazes on him, their faces a mixture of curiosity and competitive fire. Standing calmly amidst the scrutiny, hands still in his pockets, Lu Sheng wore a faint, knowing smile. He thought to himself that it seemed he had become the target for everyone. The announcer, his hair now fiery red under the lights, continued hyping the crowd. He passionately asked what incredible power an immortal-grade physique truly held, and told the audience they would find out by watching Lu Sheng's opponents. Floating above, he laid out the stakes: 3 level 11 fighters and 6 level 10 fighters, while Lu Sheng himself was only level 10. He dramatically questioned whether Lu Sheng could withstand the onslaught and advance, urging the crowd to watch. Below, the other 9 contestants glared at Lu Sheng with confidence and aggression. Watching from the stands, Lan slammed his hands on the railing in frustration. He cursed, wondering where the organizers found such an idiot for an announcer and complaining that this was a blatant attempt to screw Lu Sheng over. His face was etched with anxiety. The round was a 10-person battle royale with only one winner, meaning there were no pre-assigned opponents. However, the announcer had deliberately turned Lu Sheng into the common enemy of the other 9. Lan realized with fury that Lu Sheng would now be forced to fight all of them at once. He knew if Lu Sheng failed to win under these impossible circumstances, the reputation of his immortal grade bloodline would be greatly diminished. Lan wasn't the only one who understood the dire situation. However, aside from him and Lu Sheng's family, no one else seemed to care. In their viewing box, Lu Sheng's family watched with extreme tension. Snowy, Qinghe, and his mother clasped their hands in worry, while his father clenched his fists, their faces pale with concern. In stark contrast, the rest of the audience was ecstatic. They would have been thrilled to see Lu Sheng fight not just 9 opponents, but 100. The crowd's emotions were ignited, and they roared like wild animals, with a frenzied, almost bloodthirsty energy. Perhaps what this massive crowd truly hoped for was to witness the genius, Lu Sheng, bleeding and defeated in the arena. In the arena, the contestants began to discuss the situation. The large horned warrior noted it seemed the organizers wanted them to join forces and attack Lu Sheng. He then stated that he didn't mind, and the purple-haired elf beside him added he was also curious to see how powerful an immortal-grade bloodline was. As a green aura emanated from her, the female elf thought about the legends she'd heard, that transcendent beings could easily defeat higher-level opponents, and wondered what that meant for the immortal grade. With a malicious grin, the purple-haired elf's body erupted in crackling violet energy. He declared that with the 3 of them at level 11 and the others at level 10, it wouldn't be bullying, justifying their group attack. The horned warrior then slammed his massive glowing blue sword into the ground, shattering the floor with a shockwave. Now enveloped in a raging blue aura, he roared his agreement, shouting for everyone to attack together. The remaining level 10 fighters also decided they should eliminate Lu Sheng first since he was the one made to stand out. Watching them all power up, Lu Sheng's lips curled into a confident smirk, his eyes glowing faintly. He thought to himself that it seemed everyone was eager to test the power of an immortal-grade warrior. The 9 contestants then encircled him, weapons drawn and auras flaring, ready to launch a coordinated assault. As his 9 opponents closed in, Lu Sheng had a small thought. Well then, in the next instant, he crouched down, and a colossal explosion of golden, electrical energy erupted from his body, shaking the arena. A wide, manic grin spread across his face as his eyes glowed with power. He told them they would get exactly what they wished for. The 9 other contestants were violently thrown back by the force of his aura, their faces frozen in disbelief as they wondered how it was possible. One fighter screamed that his high-end combat glasses, with a detection limit of 1 million, had been overloaded by the energy spike, leaving them to question Lu Sheng's true strength. Before they could process it, Lu Sheng stomped his foot hard on the ground. The impact unleashed a devastating shockwave, repelling all 9 warriors and sending them flying helplessly into the air. The powerful horned warrior, now completely immobilized, could only think in despair, wondering if they had been defeated before the fight had even begun. The announcer stood frozen in shock. He stared at the empty arena floor where only Lu Sheng stood amidst the debris and stammered that he had cleared the field in a single move. He was so stunned he could only utter a confused, "Huh?" into his microphone. Ignoring the stunned silence of the stadium, Lu Sheng calmly held up a single finger. He addressed his defeated opponents, informing them this was the best, and perhaps only chance they would ever have to defeat him. With a final, confident smirk, he issued a challenge, telling them to do their absolute best and try with all their might to beat him. Lu Sheng stood alone in the center of the shattered arena, hands casually tucked in his pockets as a faint glow surrounded him. The entire stadium was in an uproar. The crowd, who just moments before had been eager for a bloody fight, were now on their feet, screaming in utter shock and disbelief, questioning what had just happened and calling his feat of clearing the stage in a single blow completely outrageous. In their private viewing box, Ecclesia and Sebastian were equally stunned. Sebastian's jaw was agape, while Ecclesia's eyes widened, a blush appearing on her cheeks as she exclaimed that this was the true power of an immortal. She continued, her voice filled with awe, declaring that he possessed the posture of a king, a perfect representation of his immortal bloodline. From his spot in the stands, Lan stared down at the lone figure of Lu Sheng, completely speechless. After a moment, a wide, relieved grin spread across his face. He laughed, realizing how ridiculous his earlier worries had been. He now understood that this was the true overwhelming power of immortality. Countless experts watching were filled with fervor. Lu Sheng's dominance, strength, and the terror he inspired perfectly matched the image they had in their minds of an immortal-level bloodline. In his family's viewing box, Qingyi cheered with unrestrained joy, waving her fan and shouting at her brother, telling him he was incredibly strong and cool. His parents looked on with tears of pride in their eyes. His mother marveled at how exceptional and unique their son had become, while his father simply repeated, "Go, son," with a beaming smile. The martial saints from their home planet, including Lin Zhengyu, were also left speechless by the display. Lin Zhengyu clasped her hands together, thinking to herself that even on a stage as vast as the starry firmament, Master Lu still shone with a dazzling and radiant light. Standing beside her, Snowy simply gazed at Lu Sheng with a look of pure admiration and affection, whispering to herself how well he had done. Lu Sheng stood as a supreme being, a figure who broke the rules and shattered common sense, the only one of his kind in millions of years. On the edge of the arena, his defeated opponents slowly began to pick themselves up. One of the warriors, grunting with effort, struggled to his feet, gritting his teeth with blood trickling from his mouth. He couldn't comprehend what had just happened, wondering in disbelief how they could have lost without even getting a chance to attack. Another fighter hung his head in absolute shame, cursing the fact that a level 10 warrior had defeated them so utterly that they couldn't even stand in his presence. Overwhelmed and completely outmatched, one by one, they raised their hands in defeat, their voices echoing in the now silent arena as they surrendered. Finding his voice again, the announcer erupted with renewed energy. He pumped his fist, shouting that the battle had ended the very moment it began, declaring that this was the authentic, overwhelming power of the immortal level. With a final, dramatic flourish, a holographic sign appeared, proclaiming Lu Sheng as the first victor. The announcer roared, asking who could possibly stand against him and telling the crowd to eagerly await the next battle. Meanwhile, on another battlefield, a very different scene was unfolding. The entire arena and all the contestants within it were completely frozen in thick, jagged ice. Floating above the frozen devastation was a powerful, hooded figure with 6 white wings. He summoned a colossal, ethereal dragon made of pure ice and crystal that coiled in the starry sky above him. With a final surge of power, he unleashed a massive explosion of frost that flash-froze the entire battlefield in an instant. Another announcer reported the result from that arena, shouting that Monroe from the Hill Star sector had also won, sweeping the field with a single technique, just like the contestant Lu Sheng had done moments before. The winged figure, Monroe, hovered silently, his face partially obscured by a mask, but his piercing blue eyes were visible, glowing with cold power. A smirk played on his lips as he thought to himself with anticipation, expressing that he was already dying of impatience to face Lu Sheng. In another of the tournament's matches, a warrior in full armor, wreathed in flames, brandished her sword with determination. With a powerful battle cry, she unleashed a massive slash of fire, declaring that today she would test the power of immortality to forge her own glory. Lu Sheng continued to compete step by step, advancing through the second and third rounds with overwhelming ease. No opponent could counter his blows, and he won his fights as if they were nothing but a light breeze. However, despite his dominance in the arena, there was one person whom Lu Sheng had no idea how to deal with. That person was the tournament announcer. The announcer seemed to have him in his sights. Every time Lu Sheng entered the arena, all the cameras would focus on him as the announcer shouted as if on adrenaline. As the announcer celebrated another win for Lu Sheng and asked him to smile, a comically drawn, annoyed Lu Sheng thought to himself that he really wanted to just punch him and get it over with. From the stands, Lan watched the scene with Lu Sheng alone in the arena, and the announcer floating above. With a satisfied smile, Lan remarked that Lu Sheng had passed the 3 semi-final rounds with complete ease. He reflected on the state of the tournament. There were just over 40 competitors left, all of them level 11 warriors or higher. Despite being a lower level, Lu Sheng had treated all his opponents as if they didn't exist. Lan concluded that the power of immortality was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Elsewhere, Sebastian and Ecclesia were also observing. Ecclesia commented that Lu Sheng had already earned everyone's respect. No one dared to underestimate him, and his probability of winning the championship had now surpassed even that of Monroe, who was originally the top favorite. Sebastian, stroking his beard, thoughtfully added that the one-on-one matches were next, where the contestants would truly face the strongest beings from each star sector. Just then, an official announcement instructed all competitors to check their identity cards, where their next opponent would be revealed. Lu Sheng pulled out his card, looking at it with curiosity. His expression changed to one of surprise when the card displayed the face of his next opponent. It was Bing Long. The tournament announcer, with his usual energy, enthusiastically announced the next match. He declared that the first battle of the 4th round of the semi-finals would be an interesting internal talent showdown from the Yamuxing, sub-Jupiter sector. Lu Sheng versus Bing Long. Upon hearing this, the crowd erupted into a roar of excitement. In the arena, the two warriors faced each other. Lu Sheng stood with his hands in his pockets, completely relaxed, while Bing Long, her hand near the hilt of her sword, stared him down. With a confident expression, she told him that this time he had no excuses to escape. Lu Sheng responded with a faint smile, asking her if she didn't get tired of pretending like that. Surprised, Bing Long sharply asked him what he was talking about. He then explained what he meant, that even though she was clearly scared to death on the inside, she was still pretending she wanted to fight him. He asked if it was really okay for her to deceive herself that way. His words caught her off guard, leaving her visibly flustered for a moment. However, she quickly tried to cover her nervousness with a forced laugh, flatly denying his accusation and asking in disbelief if he really thought she was afraid of him. Her expression twisted into a wild, almost manic grin. She claimed she wasn't afraid of him, but was rather worried that he wouldn't be able to handle a few of her pranks, and would end up being embarrassed in front of his parents and family. Lu Sheng watched Bing Long with complete indifference, as if he were watching a clown with a terrible act. Whether she was truly afraid or not was something that perhaps only Bing Long knew in her heart. Enraged by his words, Bing Long shouted at Lu Sheng, denying she was ever afraid of him and claiming she had been waiting a long time for this fight. With a final battle cry, she launched herself at him. Enveloped in a powerful blue aura, she unleashed her ultimate technique, the dance of illusory swords, summoning dozens of glowing blue energy swords that swirled around her before hurtling towards Lu Sheng in a massive barrage. Lu Sheng, however, simply watched the incoming attack with a calm, unimpressed smile, a faint golden aura beginning to glow around him. As the swords reached him, he moved with impossible speed, his golden energy flaring as he effortlessly countered and shattered each blade that came near him. With a simple flick of 2 fingers, he broke apart one of the main energy swords, neutralizing her attack completely. Bing Long could only stare in utter shock and disbelief, unable to comprehend what was happening. In the next instant, Lu Sheng appeared directly in front of her, his fist crackling with concentrated fiery energy. He asked her if she got the idea now, seeing the overwhelming power gathered in his fist just inches from her face. Bing Long's expression turned to one of pure terror. Before the punch could land, she screamed that she surrendered. Lu Sheng stopped his attack instantly, the immense force of it still visible in the air around them. He then gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Leaning in close, he gave her some advice, telling her that the next time she had to endure such force, she should be careful to control her muscles and heart rate. He then added that for the time she had invited his family to a meal, he was now returning the favor, leaving her completely flustered and confused by his words. The overwhelming experience was too much for her, and she collapsed to her knees, trembling and utterly defeated. Lu Sheng turned and walked away with a serene expression, leaving the defeated Bing Long kneeling on the ground behind him as she muttered his name in awe and disbelief. As Lu Sheng calmly walked away from the arena after his victory, the announcer was momentarily speechless, a look of astonishment on his face. However, his surprise quickly turned into explosive euphoria. He shouted into the microphone with boundless energy, proclaiming that it was one punch, another one. He explained that even against a genius of Bing Long's caliber, Lu Sheng only needed a single blow to end the battle. The announcer, whose image was projected on massive holographic screens all over the stadium, continued to hype up the incredible result to the roaring crowd. He reminded them that Bing Long was a peak level 11 warrior with an extraordinary physique, and yet she couldn't withstand Lu Sheng's attack for even a moment. He wondered aloud if the immortal bloodline was truly so overwhelmingly powerful. A spectator commented in amazement that it was all so fast. They didn't even get a chance to see what kind of powers Bing Long had before she was defeated. Meanwhile, in the arena, Bing Long remained standing, her head bowed, completely dejected by her crushing defeat. With a mischievous smile, the announcer abruptly changed the subject. He mentioned the word speed and, to everyone's surprise, used the moment to launch into a commercial break. With great enthusiasm, he introduced a new tonic developed by a major corporation, holding up a box with a picture of a kidney on it. He claimed the product greatly enhanced a certain male ability, and that its effects lasted for an astonishing 30 days. The audience's reaction was immediate. Lan jumped up furiously, shouting and asking who the hell let that idiot on stage. Lan watched the scene with a look of deep irritation. He thought to himself that not only had the host deliberately incited the others to attack Lu Sheng, but now he dared to run an ad for male enhancement products at an event of this magnitude. Next to him was Ecclesia. Lan explained to her that he had already complained to the propaganda department, but they told him this host was specifically chosen by a major sponsor. And, furthermore, the audience seemed to enjoy this kind of show. Ecclesia, clearly annoyed, put a hand to her forehead and thought about how stupid the whole situation was. As Lu Sheng stood in the waiting area after his victory, a communication request came through. He accepted the call, and a holographic screen appeared showing his sister, Qingya. Her face was pressed against the screen with excitement as she exclaimed how incredibly strong her big brother was. Her enthusiasm was almost overwhelming, and she eagerly asked when he would teach her his techniques. Her face reflected in his eye. Internally, Lu Sheng reflected on the situation with a sigh. He thought to himself that he had always tried to be a low-key and polite person, but it seemed that from then on, he had no choice but to continue being in the spotlight. He looked down with a faint smile and then looked up with newfound resolve. He concluded that there was no other way. In order to put his family's worries to rest, he would have to defeat each of his opponents as quickly and decisively as possible. Following Lu Sheng's match, the next pair of contestants entered the arena. One was a man with pointed ears from the Xuanyun Star Sector, and the other was a woman from the Zealand Star Sector. Both were described as renowned super geniuses. Their battle was incredibly fierce and lasted for more than 10 hours, a stark contrast to the brief fight between Lu Sheng and Bing Long. The intensity was on a completely different level, with massive explosions of energy rocking the arena. Lu Sheng watched the match with interest, as this was the first time he had closely observed a battle between such high-level transcendent beings. The fight ended with the female genius from the Zealand Star Sector emerging victorious after a spectacular final clash. The battle had been so destructive that the entire asteroid-sized arena was left shattered and in ruins, forcing the tournament organizers to quickly dispatch repair crews to fix the damage. The announcer, then joined by a female co-host, passionately commentated on the epic battle, successfully igniting the crowd's emotions and whipping them into a frenzy. The audience was ecstatic, with many declaring that this was what a true semi-final match of a tournament spanning 12 star sectors should look like. They felt the earlier fight between Lu Sheng and Bing Long had been over so quickly that it made them wonder if it had been a fixed match. From his seat in the stands overlooking the newly repaired arena, Lu Sheng reflected on the previous battle he had just witnessed. He concluded that he had gained some valuable insight. The power of transcendent physiques was on a completely different level compared to ordinary stellar races, as their very life essence and biological structure were far more perfect. He thought of it as an analogy. It was like two paper boats on the water. One boat had to start rowing slowly, while the other was gently pushed by a bar of soap, which was enough to trigger a warp drive and send it to light speed, illustrating the vast difference in potential. This realization led him to a confident conclusion about his own abilities. He felt that his own power systems, the stellar body and the sun god sphere, were of an extremely high level, and at least within these 12 star sectors, he had yet to see anything stronger. The tournament, which he had initially thought would be boring, had suddenly become much more interesting, as it was a perfect opportunity to witness the clash of various different power systems. Just then, his attention was caught by a striking woman with flowing red hair and a sleek blue suit walking down a nearby corridor. A dark, ethereal energy swirled around her as she moved with a powerful presence. Lu Sheng's eyes widened slightly in curiosity, and he turned to ask who she was. Next to him, Lan smiled, replying that he had just been about to introduce her. Lan explained that the woman was Gaylay, a member of the Blue Pole Demon Flame family from the Black Lin Star Sector. She possessed a high-grade transcendent physique and was at the peak of level 11, making her one of the key opponents they needed to watch out for. Lu Sheng observed her, noticing that her unique blue flames were the complete opposite of his own stellar flames. While his were dominant and explosive, hers were cold, corrosive, and enchanting. He found her power system fascinating and thought that if he got the chance, studying its structure could provide unexpected insights and help him on his own path. Meanwhile, the announcer returned to the stage, declaring that the arena repairs were complete and the next match was about to begin. He dramatically introduced the next contestant as a notorious space pirate, a man who had once single-handedly slaughtered an entire fleet and famously frozen an entire star with his bare hands, a name that echoed throughout the Hill Star sector. After a dramatic pause, he pointed to the sky. A massive holographic screen appeared, displaying the profile of the most exceptional genius in the history of the Hill Star sector, the Ice Demon, Monroe. The crowd erupted into a thunderous roar, chanting his title over and over again. Ice Demon, Ice Demon, Ice Demon. Seeing the crowd's wild reaction, Lu Sheng turned to Lan, asking if this Monroe was really so famous. Lan explained that when Monroe first rose to prominence, his title of Ice Demon had been known far beyond just the Hill Star sector. The genius of 5 or 6 surrounding star sectors had been completely overshadowed by his brilliance. Lan added that until Lu Sheng appeared, Monroe had been the most anticipated genius, having accomplished many unbelievable feats, making him a truly formidable figure. Lu Sheng then asked if the story about him freezing an entire star was true. With a thoughtful expression, Lan admitted there was likely some exaggeration to the tale. He speculated it had probably been a very small dying star. However, he quickly added that even so, it was an incredible achievement. He had never heard of any other level 11 warrior capable of such a feat, and he warned Lu Sheng that Monroe's power was not to be underestimated. Just then, Monroe made his grand entrance, descending into the arena with his massive, angelic white wings spread wide. His opponent, a muscular warrior with spiky hair, stood ready. He shouted Monroe's name, preparing to challenge him, but his voice faltered as he began to tremble uncontrollably. Monroe didn't move. He simply stared at his opponent, his single visible eye glowing with an intense cold blue light. In the next instant, without any warning, a massive pillar of ice erupted from the ground beneath the opponent, instantly encasing him in a solid block of ice, freezing him completely solid in the middle of the arena. The announcer, watching the scene unfold, was left sweating and stammering, remarking on how utterly arrogant and overwhelming the display of power had been. The announcer, recovering from his shock, officially declared Monroe the winner. He shouted into the microphone that Monroe had completely frozen his opponent with just a single glance, questioning how anyone could fight against such an overwhelming power gap. This incredible feat immediately sent a wave of speculation through the crowd. The consensus was that Monroe must have already advanced to level 12. Otherwise, such immense power would be impossible. Spectators began to whisper amongst themselves, discussing the rumor that Monroe had reached this legendary level. The realization sank in across the audience. One person commented that if it was true, there was no point in continuing the tournament, as Monroe was guaranteed to be the champion. Another agreed, wondering who could possibly stand in his way. They dismissed the idea of even Lu Sheng winning, noting that despite his immortal bloodline, he had only just reached level 10, putting him 2 entire realms below Monroe. Down in the arena, Monroe looked up towards the stands, his gaze fixing directly on Lu Sheng and Lan. With a look of intense focus, he sent a silent, telepathic message to Lu Sheng, telling him that he would be waiting for him. Lu Sheng stared back, his expression unreadable but filled with an equal intensity. At that moment, a massive holographic display in the sky updated the official win probabilities for the remaining top contestants. Before Monroe's match, Lu Sheng's probability had been at 50%. Then, after Monroe's overwhelming display, the odds shifted dramatically. Lu Sheng's probability plummeted to 30%, while Monroe's soared to 70%. Lan shivered, remarking on how truly powerful Monroe was and admitting that just being glanced at by him had been enough to make his hair stand on end. Lan turned to Lu Sheng with a serious expression and asked him if he was confident he could win against Monroe. Lu Sheng simply replied that he didn't know. Surprised by his blunt honesty, Lan put a friendly arm around Lu Sheng's shoulder. He advised him that even if he wasn't confident, he shouldn't say it so openly, as it could be seen as fear before the fight had even begun. Lan then tried to comfort him, reminding him that it was okay if he lost to Monroe, who was much older and more experienced. He reassured Lu Sheng that with his immortal bloodline, he was destined for greatness and would inevitably surpass Monroe in the future, so he shouldn't feel too much pressure then. However, Lu Sheng, with a bead of sweat running down his temple, explained his reasoning. He told Lan that he had said he didn't know because he genuinely didn't. He confessed that he still didn't know the true extent of his own power, and it was clear that what Monroe had shown so far was only the tip of the iceberg. He concluded by asking a simple logical question. How could you possibly compare 2 unknown variables? After Monroe's overwhelming display, the tournament continues, but no other contestant can match the spectacle he created. The other fighters and the audience are still shaken, unable to forget the power and terror in that single, devastating glance. Reflecting this, Monroe's official win probability on the prediction charts continues to climb, eventually reaching an astonishing 95%. An announcement for the next match cuts through the tension. The next battle will feature Qian Yushu from the Zealand Star Sector. The name immediately catches Lu Sheng's attention. This is the mysterious rumored reincarnator that Lan had told him about. Intrigued, Lu Sheng leans over the railing to get a better view. Down in the arena, Qian Yushu stands calmly among 9 other contestants in another 10-person battle royale. He has green-blue hair in a braid and is dressed in a traditional style tunic, a calm smirk on his face as a powerful green aura envelops him. With his hands behind his back, he discreetly concentrates his energy, forming a crackling green sphere of power at his fingertips. In an instant, he unleashes a devastating barrage of green energy blasts, catching all 9 opponents by surprise as they wonder what kind of attack this is. The blasts strike with incredible force, sending the other warriors flying. They cry out in agony, with one exclaiming the attack felt as if it had pierced their soul. With the arena cleared, Qian Yushu stands calmly amidst the bodies of his defeated opponents. He turns, and a final wisp of energy curls around his fingers before dissipating. Watching from the stands, Lu Sheng's eyes widen in shock and recognition. He realizes what he has just seen, questioning to himself if that was sword energy fired from the fingertips. This incredible display of power only deepens the mystery surrounding Qian Yushu. Lan confirms Lu Sheng's observation, explaining that he is correct. He clarifies that Qian Yushu doesn't even possess a transcendent physique, but his spiritual power is incredibly strong and his fighting style is unique. A small, intrigued smile plays on Lu Sheng's lips as he finds the situation interesting. Lu Sheng wonders if the rumors are true and if Qian Yushu is really a reincarnated expert from another universe. His thoughts then turn practical. He muses about how such a unique individual hasn't been captured for research. He thinks that if he gets the chance, he should capture and study him to see if he can improve his own martial arts. The tournament moves on. The announcer takes the stage again, excitedly informing the audience that the preliminary rounds have concluded, leaving only 24 contestants. He declares that the 5th round is about to begin. In his next match, Lu Sheng once again demonstrates his overwhelming power. He effortlessly knocks out all his opponents in a single move, showing that ordinary level 11 warriors are no match for him. While the audience is stunned by Lu Sheng's power, his victories are so swift they almost feel expected. His popularity continues to rise due to his spectacular fights. However, many spectators still believe Manhwa is the stronger of the two, discussing amongst themselves that despite Lu Sheng's strength, Manhwa is still their favorite. Lu Sheng stands alone on the arena platform, arms crossed, looking on silently after his victory. Internally, he has a moment of comical reflection. He admits to himself that Manhwa's dramatic and flashy methods are undeniably impressive. A chibi version of him thoughtfully wonders if he should adopt a similar, more theatrical approach. During Qian Yushu's match, Manhwa watched with great seriousness, a look of intense interest on his face, recognizing a worthy rival. Following his own impressive victory, Qian Yushu's win probability on the prediction chart soars, coming close to Manhwa's. While not reaching 95%, his support rate is a formidable 71.2%, solidifying his position as a top contender. The announcer stands triumphantly before a massive holographic display, declaring the end of the 5th round. The screen shows the current top 3 favorites to win. Manhwa leads with an overwhelming 95% support rate, Qian Yushu follows with a strong 72%, and Lu Sheng is third with 16.1%. Just as the crowd absorbs the information, the announcer gets a devious look, telling everyone he almost forgot one more important thing. The audience looks on, confused. To everyone's groans, it's another commercial. He enthusiastically holds up a pixelated bottle, shouting about how watching non-stop matches can be tiring and promoting an energy drink to stay refreshed. Watching this, a chibi version of Lu Sheng is comically impressed. He thinks the announcer's seamless transition from hype to advertisement is a slick combo, rivaling marketing tactics he remembers from his past life. This triggers a bizarre flashback to clickbait ads he used to see, leaving him momentarily confused. Suddenly, a loud vibration shakes the ground, jolting him back to reality. His communicator rings and he sees a call from his sister, Qingya. She appears on the screen, beaming with excitement. She tells him his fights seem way too easy, complaining that before she can shout her support, he has already knocked everyone out. She continues, explaining that despite how short his fights are, the billions back on their home planet, the Blue Planet, are going wild. The tournament is being broadcast everywhere, and everyone thinks it's 1,000 times more exciting than the World Cup. A scene shows people back home cheering him on, shouting, "Go, Martial God." Hearing this, a warm, proud smile spreads across Lu Sheng's face. He holds up his phone as if taking a selfie, thinking this means the Blue Planet has finally connected with the rest of the starry sky. On the other end, Lu Sheng's mother and sister Qingyi express their concern. His mother pleads with him not to force himself if he can't win, pointing out the prediction rates are not in his favor and they are worried. However, the family's mood is divided. Qingyi clenches her fists and tells her brother he must teach that arrogant Manhwa a lesson. His father, also fired up, agrees, while his mother tries to quiet them. Speaking more calmly, his father advises his son to listen and concede if he has to, reassuring him that what he has already accomplished is enough. His mother adds that the ice demon is terrifying, having frozen people with a glance. With a confident smile, Lu Sheng reassures his family, telling them not to worry. He explains that Monroe only appeared so strong because his opponents were far too weak, and that in reality, he isn't as formidable as he seems. His family watches him on a large screen as he tells them with a grin to watch closely, promising to beat Monroe into a pulp. Elsewhere, Snowy also watches the broadcast. Her expression is serious and filled with concern as she clenches her hand, silently urging him to be careful. Lu Sheng, sensing her worry, looks on with a gentle expression and softly promises that he will be. After comforting his family, Lu Sheng arrives at the arena for the first round of the finals. The 14 remaining contestants have gathered. These 14 warriors are the best of the best from across the 12-star sectors. Just then, his phone rings again. He answers, asking what's wrong. It is Lan, and his voice is filled with urgency. He frantically tells Lu Sheng he is sending him the complete profiles on all remaining fighters and that he has just received confirmation. Both Monroe and Qian Yushu have indeed advanced to level 12. With a grave tone, Lan urges Lu Sheng to be mentally prepared. He advises him not to force a fight if the odds are against him, reminding him he is still young with a long future. Lu Sheng calmly replies that he understands and ends the call. He stands among the other champions, his expression thoughtful. He reflects on the news, thinking about the challenge of a level 12 opponent. He then compares this threat to the level 13 corpse puppet he once fought in the dream space, wondering how a level 12 would stack up against that, revealing a hidden confidence from a battle no one else knows about. With a grand gesture, the announcer roars into the microphone, declaring that the first round of the finals has officially begun. The tournament kicks off with a fierce battle between two powerful warriors. Their swords clash in a brilliant explosion of teal energy. One fighter, a man with blue hair, concentrates his power, his blade glowing. He then unleashes a devastating slash, sending a massive wave of energy that overwhelms his opponent. The defeated warrior cries out as he is thrown backward. The victor raises his sword in triumph as the announcer declares Gabriel's from the Moluo Star Sector the winner, with the crowd chanting his name. Watching from the stands, Lan notes that Gabriel's has a high-grade transcendent physique and is strong enough to be a contender for the top 5. Lu Sheng, however, seems completely unimpressed and lets out a massive bored yawn. Seeing this, Lan becomes frantic. He shouts at Lu Sheng that his own championship win rate has dropped out of the top 5 and that he needs to pay attention. Lu Sheng casually replies, "Oh, is that so?" Sweating with anxiety, Lan explains that now that they are in the finals, many contestants are revealing their true, hidden strength, making the situation far more dangerous. With a slight smile, Lu Sheng remarks that looking at the situation now, his earlier words of confidence must seem like a joke. Lan, misinterpreting this as lost confidence, quickly waves his hands in a flustered panic, insisting that wasn't what he meant. As Lan looks down, dejected, he mutters that it doesn't matter anymore. Lu Sheng places a reassuring hand on Lan's shoulder, telling him that human memory is fleeting. He explains that if you don't constantly emphasize something, people will quickly forget, leaving Lan confused. Lu Sheng then turns to face him, his expression now serious and intense. He looks Lan in the eyes and asks a profound question. "Lan, what kind of thing do you think an immortal bloodline is supposed to be?"